So in today's discussion, we will see what are the factors which affect cultivations of medicinal plants, what are the factors which affect cultivations of medicinal plants, and we will also try to divide these factors into two separate category. One is external and one is internal. External factor can also be called as exotic factors or exogenous factors, okay, which are not in like we broadly can say which are not in our control as such, okay, but we can uh, by experimentations or by genetic pooling and by biotechnology we can control a few internal factors like genetics of the plant. We can decide which plant species we should go with cultivation, which plant species is not good for cultivations likewise. And then we can again like divide that these factors, maybe atmospheric factors, maybe soil factors, maybe human factors, or maybe exogenous and endogenous factor. Likewise we can divide. So this topic we are going to discuss today, okay. And then after we will go to the next topic, that we will see how these parameters will decide the growth and development and cultivations, collections, processing of the plants, okay. How these parameters individually they will decide, like we will see how altitude, latitude, temperature, then climate changes, weather conditions, humidity, rainfall, how they decide that what will be the quality of the product which we will be getting, okay? What will be the yield of the product which we can expect we will be getting. So these parameters definitely they talk or decide about those all conditions, right? Okay, then we will see humidity and gas exchange. Okay, you know about like from your basic science NCRT textbook at the school time, like CO2 and oxygen they get exchanged in the plants, okay. And we have some plants which open stomata at the night time also, okay. This is like usually the plants open stomata at the daytime when there is photosynthesis processes going on, but few plant species which are found in deserts, they open their stomata at night time so that they can avoid the water loss, unnecessary water loss, okay. Around 90% or 99 around 99% of the water which plant take, that get evaporated from the plants, okay. It use only a small fraction which it absorbed from the soil. So that factor we will discuss: gas sections, fertilizations, manure, irrigation, drainage. What is the effect of radiations and radioactive substances? Like if you see from our uh, general knowledge, if some plant species are growing near to the nuclear reactors or nuclear power generators plant, okay, and then in case these plant species at one plant I use for uh, factory layout, okay, or nuclear site layout, and second plant is for these species of various herbal medications and all. So the radiations amount, or which we can call that PAR, photosynthetically active radiations, their concentration is higher compared to the normal farm or agriculture grade. Okay, so we have to tackle the radiation factors also, and then in involvement of pesticides, because like to give better yield, to give higher concentrations of the or higher amount of the plant species, we use pesticides, we use weedicides, okay. And the pesticide that a few concentration of pesticides is okay with the food, okay. You try to get me, a few concentration of pesticide is okay with the food. We like hardly be bother like whatever wheat, whatever rice we are taking, and from which source that is coming, whether like that really is coming from for example wheat that is famous for MP wheats and that all. So whether that really is coming for that region where the company is declaring, whether that really is having how much concentration of pesticides, okay, that we do not bother as such for our food or wheat, rice, gram, peanuts and all. But definitely if we are using them in medications, okay, for example Horlicks, you can say they use wheat for example, sugar cane, and that then that saccharin which we obtain from sugar cane, we are using in making maybe cold drinks and other herbal products, or you can say like at large scale we are generating. Then definitely at that moment the concentration of pesticides it matter a lot. Okay, there was a case against the PepsiCo and Coca-Cola, these companies, if you remember, because of they were adding high concentration of pesticides in their drinks, in their soft drinks. Okay, and that case it goes to honorable court, and they decided that it's because of this raw material which they are getting that itself involve pesticides. They are not adding any additional pesticide for preservations and those purposes. So at that moment, the pesticide concentration that matters in plants. Okay, so we should take care of that, and we will also understand that what are the pesticides which we can use in next Bform third year. You will discuss about you will study a chapter that involves biopesticides, that the concept of biopesticides, okay, or biodegradable pesticides. So we will discuss about that also in the next year. Then we will see what are the various methods of which involves like pesticides, how we can go for removal of pests from the agriculture land. So that like very basic method. If you see any farmer which goes to the field, he plug the pesticides, okay, and the plants which he see, which like along with the paddy, if you see some plant which is an unwanted plant, so he keep on plucking them, and he keep on digging them. So these all methods, mechanical method, agriculture method. So this topic we will discuss today. And then under endogenous factors, this will be taken in the next class, because endogenous factors are the factors which are decided by the plant species. Okay, and then you will study hybridizations, you will study the chemodynes and chemical races, and those kind of various other like examples. So we will focus in today's class uh, up to the pesticide discussion. Okay, and if you have some doubt, then you can take that. So the main heading is factor influencing the cultivations of the plant, and this question, or from this portion, the question can be asked in any university. If you see the paper, they ask like what are the what do you mean by cultivations, what are the factor affecting cultivations, what are the exogenous factors which affect cultivations. Likewise the question is asked. Okay, and then we know, if I talk about soil factor, we know like even in the soil there are various factors which should be taken care. For example, like we have soil pH, okay, and that's why the government is making soil card for farmers. They can take their soil to the laboratory, and the government will judge it, or the analyst, government analyst, that will judge it on the basis of various parameters. What kind of soil it is, whether it is coarse soil, loamy soil, sandy soil, and that based on the particle size of the soil, what is the pH of the soil, how much nitrogen content is present in the soil, how much carbon content or how much mineral content is present in the soil. Okay, then what is the color of the soil? Aapne suna hoga black soil. Okay, then we know like black soil is good for tobacco, cotton, those kind of species. So similarly, like the growth of the plant, that depends on various factors. Okay, which factors we are going to study in this discussion. So if we just see the growth of the medicinal plant, it is influenced by various factors in the cultivation. One is atmospheric factors, and atmospheric factors, which if I divide atmospheric factors, then atmospheric factors can be divided again into three types: 1, 2, and 3. Okay, one is exogenous, which we just discussed, which is actually the environmental factor or atmospheric factors, okay, which are not in any human control as such. The climate, rainfall, humidity, gas exchange, fertilization, irrigations. And irrigation means the rainfall over here. Definitely nowadays we are like increasing our artificial irrigation system, but still if you see India as a whole system, India as a one system, our cultivation still it depends on the monsoon seasons and the natural rainfall. Okay. Then plant hormones, radiation, pests. So these are the external factors. Endogenous factors, we talk about the genetics, how much variation is present in between species. Okay, then like let's suppose you talk about wheat. So there are so many varieties of wheats are coming. So many varieties of paddy or rice are coming as such. Okay, then we talk about chemical races, and then human factors. They are the involvement of the labor, transport, finance, and marketing. Distance means what is the distance of uh, market means at two places where in Haryana, Punjab, like MSP like nowadays that's a topic of debate also, minimum supporting price for each and every crop. Like these two states from time back they are giving or MSP to the farmers to support cultivations, but that is not the case throughout the India. Many states they are not giving any kind of MSP to the farmers as such. So marketing distance, like if you are directly involved in the sale of that crop to the society. Okay, and second marketing distance means if definitely this our discussion is limited to the medicinal plants. Okay, and medicinal plants marketing distance means where you are growing these plants and at what site or manufacturing site you are transporting these plants. For say licorice, some farmer is growing muleti licorice. Okay, now this licorice is transported to the nearest manufacturing cup syrup site where they dry it, powder it, and they make some honey test or some cup syrup out of this muleti, out of this licorice. So that is actually the marketing distance, site selections, and the plant selection. Okay. Soil factor, that depends on biotic factors and adaptive factors, and we will because these factors up to here, they also lot of factors are involved up to this point. So we will just keep our discussions today limited to atmospheric factors, and then we will see the exogenous, endogenous, and human factors separately. Now if you see exogenous atmospheric factors and the atmospheric factor, you see exogenous factors, definitely climate and the light. Climate is something like which and these two factors, they collectively provide the natural plant habitat where the plant is growing, where the plant is living. Okay, and hence climate that is the temperature, rainfall, length of the day. You know that like if you are have some interest in biology, we can even divide the plants on the basis of this into two categories. Short day plant, SDP, sorry, SDP, short day plant, okay, and then we have long day plant. So on the basis of the length of the plant, we can divide short plant or long day plant. So that's why the different crop require different climatic patterns, and most of the plants can grow well in sunny, dry conditions. Each and every factor, few examples will be given for each and every factor to justify that statement. Okay. How the climate, temperature, rainfall, these factors are necessary. So at each and every step, few examples will be given that is related to medicinal plants, and then you have to remember these examples because sometimes the question asked directly from the example as such. Okay. Now just see the examples. In cloudy weather, the amount of the carbohydrate in the leaf that decreases since the photosynthesis is light dependent. Light is one of the key ingredient in photosynthesis that we all know. Okay? The light, and that definitely even in the light, if you just study then a few colors of the light, photosynthesis occur very well in blue color. It is very least, or it went drastically down in green color. So in red and blue, that is the maximum photosynthesis is occurring. Okay, as carbohydrates serve as the initial starting material for the biosynthesis. Now you from this line you can understand how the plants they are synthesizing various secondary metabolites as such. Carbohydrate is a primary metabolite. Carbohydrate is the starting point. From that point, we get another secondary metabolites, right? Because from the glucose only, we get amino acids. From the glucose only, we get fat, oils. From the glucose or the carbohydrate stars, from that portions only, we get alkaloid, glycosides, flavonoids, tannins. Then we have volatile oils, we have lignin, suberin. So everything is synthesized from the glucose as such. That's why even whatever we eat, we break down that food to the simplest glucose. Then we store that glucose in the form of animal starch. Okay, that is glycogen. So likewise, the carbohydrate is the starting material for the plant, and carbohydrate C6H12O6, this molecule synthesized from the CO2 plus H2O in the presence of sunlight along with the chloroplast that is present, and then we get glucose C6H12O6 plus oxygen as a byproduct. Okay, so if the raw material glucose will be higher in the concentration, definitely the amount of secondary metabolite will be high. That will have abundance effect on the amount of secondary metabolite. Changing changing the temperature, that also influences the plant growth by affecting the rate of the chemical reactions. Okay, if you just slightly change the temperature, then the ROR, rate of the chemical reactions, and that definitely in the laboratory, in artificial conditions, and in vivo, in living condition, that also varies a lot. That's why the temperature is one of the main factor which affects the growth or the amount of the secondary metabolites that will be present in the plant. Similarly, the excessive temperature fall, excessive temperature as well as the frost also decreases the growth of the plant, quality and metabolism of the medicinal plants. If there is like conditions which are having excessive temperatures, or if there are conditions which are having very least temperature or less temperature, like frost like conditions are there, okay, the temperature goes to minus and it's very close to 0 degrees Celsius, definitely the metabolism of the plant will suffer because of that, right? High temperature leads to the death of the plant. Low temperature infect the plant by microorganisms. Alkaloid, if they are giving the examples with related to alkaloids in Datura stramonium, Datura plants, alkaloid content become lower in Datura stramonium during the cloudy, rainy weather. Volatile oils are produced more readily in warmer weather. Okay, yet very hot days leads to the physical loss of the oil. So it talks about like this: the volatile content is higher in warm, like some humid temperatures, but if the temperature is very high, then definitely that volatile oil will evaporate from the plants. Like if I just give you very common example, you have seen eucalyptus plants, which we also call in our locality as safeda. Okay, safeda plant, eucalyptus plant, and that is also called as nilgiri in Hindi week, or in southern India we call it nilgiri. So that eucalyptus plant is having a peculiar smell because of eucalyptus oil, because of eugenol, eucalyptus oil. These eugenol is key ingredient which is present in that, and oil, volatile oil, or the oil type is eucalyptus oil. Okay, and that eucalyptus oil definitely it is having eugenol content in that, and the amount of eucalyptus oil or the quality of eucalyptus oil is not good in our surroundings. If you just move to the places like Uti and Mysore, you will see the same plant, the same safeda plant, same eucalyptus plant, same Nilgiri plant, and even in Uti, like we have Nilgiri hills. If you just check that from the geography, we have Nilgiri hills because only this plant is very dominant over there. This plant is growing into acres and acres of the land over there, and they are involved in the extraction or isolation of eucalyptus oil over there, because the conditions are warm and humid like, but that is not having so much high temperature, so much, or the temperature do not go very high, like over here it goes up to 48 degrees Celsius, 49 degrees Celsius in very, in the month of like in coming few months it will be going or touching like that. So that's why the content of the volatile oil, it is very in very high amount. Okay, the difference is there in very high amount compared to the same plant species you see at that region and the same plant species you see at surrounding of us. And similarly, they have also given the example of alkaloid in the Dhatura stone. Okay, you can feel if you are trying to extract the alkaloids from Dhatura. Similarly, from other plants also, the alkaloid content will be lower in cloudy and rainy weather. Right? Again, they give a few more examples. Growing, sorry, growing peppermint in shade rather than sun, then you can see that will vary the amount of volatile oil. The content of alkaloids in stramonium leaves lower in rainy and cloudy weather. And again, they have given one more temperature. Even for the seed germination, the temperature that should be 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, 15 to 20 degrees Celsius. And the optimum temperature for the propagation is 18 to 28 degrees Celsius, in which the day temperature should be 21 to 20 degrees Celsius and night temperature should be 15 degrees Celsius. So you don't have to remember each and every temperature factor and that all, but a few examples, if you just read it once and twice, definitely like you can just not only by heart that, but you can also try to correlate that from like from all the alkaloids which are present in the plant, and definitely when in your higher classes or like in your higher degrees, whenever you will be going for extractions of the alkaloid, so you can take care at what time you should try to isolate and extract that alkaloid which is present in any plant. Okay, then the next parameter is latitude and altitude. The effect of the latitude in fat producing plants, for example, tropical plant, palm oil, cocoa butter, contain mainly saturated fatty acids. Means the plants which contains mainly saturated fatty acids, unke andar the effect of latitude is a significant factor. While the subtropical plants give a larger amount of unsaturated fatty acids. Okay, tropic, subtropical. So subtropical plants which gives larger amount of unsaturated fatty acids, and just to recall your information, unsaturated fatty acids, they are significant, or they are considered as healthy for our heart, for our body as such. Okay, unsaturated fatty acids, they are healthier for the body functioning compared to the saturated fatty acids. Okay, even like we had a lot of palm oil, and let me tell you, if you remember that India is also importing palm oil from countries like Malaysia, and few months back, because the Malaysia gave some statement against the India related to the Kashmir situation in UN. So Indian commercial organizations or Indian manufacturing organizations, or you can say like organization which deals with the oils and that all, they stop importing the oil from the Malaysia. They start importing it from the other countries like Thailand and others, but they stop importing the oil from the Malaysia. Still, we are importing palm oil from like from the foreigner countries, and that also like we are losing our money as such, or like we are losing our trade deficit, or we are having higher trade deficit as such. And the palm oil, this is also not good for our health compared to unsaturated oil. And we are adding palm oil. If you just take out any packet of the biscuits or the chips or Lays and anything, whatever you see in the market, definitely palm oil is one of the ingredients over here. You can see that. Okay, and we are using for it for eating purposes as such, and that also we are importing it from outside, and then we are using it for the eating purpose. But in India, like we have other unsaturated fatty acids which we are not using as such. Okay, they have given and the olive oil, almond oil, sesame oil are predominant in oilic acids, and the plants of temperate zone like cotton seed, sunflower also contain unsaturated acids. Peanuts and olive oil trees grow in subtropics have higher unsaturated fatty acids content. In India, we are having sunflower oil, and we are not importing it from anywhere. And we have almond olive oil. We are importing again from the Spain and other European countries because India is not producing higher concentration of olive oil as such. But sesame oil, you know what is sesame oil? Sesame oil is actually we obtain it from sesame seeds. Okay, and sesame it's not from sesame plant. So like there is a plant which we call it is sesame ka ped hai, sesame ka plant. It's not from that. Sesame oil is तिल ऑयल ठीक है हिंदी में हम इसको तिल ऑयल बोलते हैं सीसम ऑयल अब आप सबको समझ में आ गया व्हाट इज सीसम ऑयल इज तिल ऑयल जस्ट if you just search it on Google you will find sesame plant and this we obtain from the seed it is not from anything from the sesame plant जो sesame पेड़ का जो बड़ा पेड़ दिखता है सीसम उससे कोई मतलब नहीं है और ये तिल ऑयल कहलाता है हिंदी के अंदर ठीक है so this is about the latitude and altitude. How does it affect the concentration of oils which are present or concentration or I can say how does it affect the presence of saturated and unsaturated fatty acids which are present in oil. Okay, again they have given one more example related to the altitude that is related to cinchona which example I just mentioned before. And if you just see Cinchona succirubra which is a species of cinchona plant, okay, and because we obtain alkaloids like quinine, hydroxyquinine, these very prominent alkaloids we obtain from cinchona, and even like nowadays that is they are in very demanding also. So Cinchona subsidura that grows well at low levels, but alkaloids are not used at that point. Okay, the growth you can see they grow well at low level, but alkaloids are not used at that plant. For decorative purpose you can grow, or for like just to show that this is a cinchona plant you can grow. The bitter constituent of Genetinia lutea are increased with altitude. Okay, the alkaloids of Aconitum nephalis and lobila plant and the oil content of thyme oil which we call and peppermint oil that decreases with altitude. Pyrethrum is a flower, okay, is a pyrethrum flower or that gives best yield of the flower heads and pyrethrin at high altitude of equators like East Africa. Pyrethrins we use in as anti mosquito or as a mosquito repellent which we use the derivatives of pyrethrin melatonin in mosquito coils, okay, like Kachua chop, Odomas, and Mortin, and that all we use. Even in spray, or we use pyrethrins and their derivatives as such. Okay. Then humidity. Humidity means the amount of the vapors that is present in the air, in the surrounding air. That's why the humidity is that affects the if the amount of the vapors are higher, definitely you can see a few things can be higher compared to even the oil we just talk about. The humidity, if the humidity is higher, then the vapor content, or you can say the volatile oil vapor content will be higher in the surrounding of the plant as such. So that's why the humidity is affecting conditions like or the plant products like volatile oils. Okay. Then gaseous actions definitely the which we already discussed, the CO2 exchange and oxygen exchange, stomata opening time, stomata closing time, because stomata is surrounded by two guard cells. So when the stomata is opening and closing, at that time the plant also loses water and few like volatile products the plants which is forming as such. Okay, fertilizers that hampers the growth if we do not provide fertilizers as such. That's why we provide like NPK fertilizers, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium fertilizers. We give nitrogen containing fertilizers like urea as such. Okay. So we spray or we just give plants the urea as such, and the fertilization concentration should be optimum. It's not like this कि बहुत सारे fertilizer use करो and plant की growth बहुत अच्छी आई. If we use high amount of urea, okay, that in normal language we talk like this कि ज़्यादा यूरिया डल गया तो प्लांट जल गया. Okay, ज़्यादा यूरिया हो गया तो प्लांट जल गया. Similarly, the high amount of the urea that leads to the hampering the various physiological functions of the plant. Okay, so the fertilization, or if we are using artificial fertilizers or manure, or we can say like biofertilizers or organic fertilizers, that time also we should look after the concentration, right? Now we see like if I just tell you in very short, we divide fertilizers into two types: organic, inorganic. Inorganic means artificial fertilizers, you see. Then that also we divide on the basis of the nutrient they contain. That can be, the fertilizer can be supplying micronutrient or macronutrient. NPK is macronutrients. Okay, and then micronutrients are very less concentration of copper, iron, zinc, molybdenum. These are macronutrients which are required by the plant to perform specific enzymatic functions or photosynthetic functions or like transportations and that all. Okay, so that's why the uptake of the micronutrients, and nowadays we are also using the nano phosphate fertilizers that are having SMZ, means SMG, which you can say surface modified zeolites. Okay, that is also surrounded by the phosphates, and that slowly release the P, मतलब phosphorus in the surrounding soil. That is very achievable, and that the plant can also take. Irrigation and drainage. We should never go for irrigation after we have just supplied fertilizers to the plant. Okay, like any farmer, after just supplying the fertilizers, or like today he's give the fertilizers और उसने अपने मतलब पूरे फील्ड के अंदर यूरिया दिया, पूरे खेत के अंदर यूरिया दिया और कल को वो पानी लगा दे. So this is not a good practice, because as soon as we go for irrigations, that fertilizers which are already supplied, they can wash out. Okay, they can wash out with the irrigations. तो प्लांट के सराउंडिंग कभी प्लांट उनको ले ही नहीं पाएगा, वो धुल के बह के चले जाएंगे नेक्स्ट प्लांट में या फिर ड्रेनेज सिस्टम. एंड इफ वी जस्ट टॉक अबाउट द irrigations and drainage, definitely you know like paddy, rice, that require lot of water. Wheat compared to paddy do not require that much water. Sugarcane, that again require water. Okay, pulses, दालें हिंदी में उनको इतना पानी नहीं चाहिए होता. तो ये सब चीज irrigation and drainage, that depends on the plant species also, कि किसको कितना पानी चाहिए होता है. Plant hormones, that we will discuss in detail also, but you are aware that auxin, gibberellin, cytokinins, ethylene, and abscisic acid. You just remember these names. Okay, they are very, very significant in performing various functions of the plant. Okay, in performing various functions of the plant, like we just talk about auxins, the concentrations of auxins compared to the cytokinins and gibberellins that decide in plant tissue culture also which part will be growing first, whether the plumule, the shoot part will be coming out, or the rootlet will be coming out firstly. So similarly, these five auxin, gibberellin, cytokinins, ethylene, abscisic acid, these five plant hormones, they do not have like very little effect, but they have very strong control over the plant development. Okay, because if we just reduce the concentration of gibberellins to very less, the plant size will be decreasing. It will be very, very less. Okay, abscisic acid, you know, abscisic acid is stress hormone in the plant. Ethylene is responsible for fruit growth, a fruit ripening hormone. Ethylene is fruit ripening hormone. Cytokinins is cell dividing hormone. Okay, likewise, radiations, solar radiations, that definitely plays a part of growth regulator. You have heard the effect of phototropism, geotropism, likewise you heard. Phototropism means any plant is having natural capability to attract toward the sunlight. If I just grow a plant at the window plane, then you will see that plant will have tendency to grow towards the sunlight. The growth of the plant will be stimulated by the solar radiations, the amount of the light that is falling on the plant. Similarly, the root growth, that is positively geotropic. That's again grows towards the ground side. Okay, so that's why the solar radiation, they plays very important role. The various steps, for example, seed germinations, leaf expansion, the growth of the stem and the root, flowering, fruiting, and thermal conditions, they are very necessary for physiological actions of the plant. Okay, solar radiations, they influence the assimilations, means collections of the nutrients, dry matter distributions, everything. And then we discuss about PAR, that is photosynthetically active radiations. So similarly, like on the basis of visible wavelength, which I just discussed, visible wavelength is 400 to 780 nanometer, which we call VIBGYOR. So under this VIBGYOR also, few radiations or few wavelengths are affecting the plant growth at very higher rate. Okay. Likewise, the radiation factor which we discussed, and one more radiations, that is radioisotope or radioactive radiations. They also have the effect on the growth of the plant. Okay, they also have effect on the growth of the plant. जिसको हम कह देते हैं radioactive, जो radioactive isotopes होते हैं, for example, you can see uranium, जो सबसे ज़्यादा common है, uranium plant, thorium plant. So the growth of the plant, if you see nearby the nuclear reactor, that definitely the higher amount of radiation concentration or radioactive substance will be present in that. Okay, then you heard about the lux, that is actually the unit of luminous influx, means how much radiations are falling in a particular area on that particular plant as such. Okay, then they have done few experiment on the basis of the Nicotina tobacum, that is actually the tobacco plant. Okay, and which gives nicotine, which we use in cigar, BD, cigarettes, and various others like preparations such as Osimum bacillum. This is Osimum is holy basil, tulsi. Okay, and if you grow this plant in glass houses that having less phenols and terpenoids concentrations are very varying in that. Okay, then pest, you know, like we have not only living pests, we have like pest is something which is we can divide into animal pests, we can divide into rodents, we can divide into cockroaches, we can divide like along with cockroaches, ants, red ants. So these all kind of factors that makes a non-favorable conditions for the plants to grow as such. Okay, and we call them pests as such. That can be virus, that can be fungus, that can be means, that can be animals, that can be birds, that can be microorganisms also. And then like they have talked about few plants as such, few fungal pests for these. So just go through the examples and then you just try to remember this. And how do we go for removing the pest? Mechanical agriculture, biological chemicals, and chemicals means we use herbicides, we use pesticides. Okay, and like for example, we use fungicides, and these chemicals, borax mixtures and chlorophenols. And we were also using insecticide at a moment. Okay. DDT insecticides, this kind of insecticide, gamma xanthine and parathion. These are the insecticides which are they are rodenticide just to like kill the rats, and we are using warfarin, strychnine, red, and then some natural like this you will study in biopesticides. Some natural factor we can also use, like if the rats they are eating our crops, you can use cat for that. If cats are eating our crop, you can use any dog, and dog will not allow any birds also to come nearby to the field. So similarly, these are the various factors which are used in exogenous or under exogenous factor, which are there to control the growth of the pest, growth of the crop as such. And pest is one of the factors. Okay, because what does the pest do? We are investing a lot. We are giving fertilizers, we are giving agriculture, farmland, we are giving irrigations, and the pests are taking benefit of that. That's why because of pest infections, there is a huge loss. Okay, and that can occur at any time when the plants are growing at that time also, and when the crop is already like the fruits has come, and then it's the harvesting time. That time also the pest can hamper the process. Okay, and they can like they can turn into the loss of lakhs of the rupees and like that. Okay.